Hello everybody, in today's video I'm talking about do's and don'ts of the real estate transaction, and these are things that you will want to do or not do while you're trying to buy or sell your home. My name is Dawn Dickinson. The channel is Living in Northern Arizona, where I'll teach you everything there is to know about living in the state of Arizona. I am a real estate agent, so if you ever have a question about buying or selling a home in Arizona, please reach out and give me a call, text, or email. I will get back to you. My contact information is always listed in the description below. All right, so let's get started. I have compiled this list of things to do or not to do while you're trying to purchase a home or sell a home. Now, a lot of these things seem really obvious, and a lot of times I don't even tell these to my clients because I think that they already know them. But even the most experienced buyers and sellers, I've had them make these mistakes, and I wanted to give you the list so that you know what not to do, because some of these are just a little bit small and kind of annoying, and other things can cost you a lot of money and maybe even have you lose the sale. So if you want to stay tuned to the end, because the last one is something that if you're a seller may cause you to lose lots of money on the sale of your home. So let's start with number one. For buyers, especially if you are financing your purchase, don't make another huge purchase while you are in escrow, like buying a car, because that could make you suddenly not qualified for your mortgage and then you lose the home. Now, while if you're paying cash, this might be okay if you have a lot of money, but still I would avoid buying a major purchase like a car or taking an expensive vacation while you are trying to purchase a home. I've had some buyers or sellers actually go out of the country for a vacation during the escrow process. That just makes things a little bit more complicated, may not destroy the sale, but why throw a monkey wrench into your transaction when you could just wait a few weeks and take your out of the country vacation. Now, sometimes these things have been planned in advance and you can't help it, but again, things like major purchases, buying a car during a transaction, really try to put those off until the sale is finished. Okay, so for buyers, another thing that you want to do is shop for your home insurance early in the escrow process. This really wasn't a problem up until a few years ago, but home insurance has gotten very expensive, and in some states like Florida and California, it's so expensive and you may not even be able to get a policy. Areas in northern Arizona, we even have seen these problems in some of the really rural communities or communities that are in the forest or bordering national forest land. So shop for your homeowner's insurance early, because this will also impact your mortgage, and maybe if it's too high you might be able to get a mortgage. So do that early in the transaction. In fact, you may want to do that before even making an offer. Call an insurance broker and see what kind of a rate you could expect for that particular address. I have an insurance broker in Arizona who is great. I could give you a referral. I can't do anything outside of the state. Okay, for buyers, do transfer your utilities early in the process. Don't wait till the day you're supposed to close to have the electricity switched to your name, or the gas or the garbage, things like that. Do that early in advance. You don't want them shutting off the utilities and then turning them back on, because sometimes the electric company or the gas company will make somebody be there before they turn it on if it's been turned off, whereas if they just switch it from the old owner to the new owner, it can be very seamless and transparent. One thing you want to know is that your agent can't do the utility transfer for you, because the utility company wants to be speaking to the owner or somebody who's authorized and also give payment. So you can't have your agent do that for you. You'll have to do that in advance. Now, sometimes you don't know exactly if you're going to close on that day, so just tell them it should be on the 5th, say, but if there's a hiccup, I will let you know. So don't wait until closing day or a couple days to get the utilities transferred into your name. Okay, here's something that happens sometimes, and I know it's well-meaning, but a buyer might ask if you could find out what the neighbors are like. They might ask your agent that. Please don't ask your agent that. There's a couple of reasons why not. One is because it's very subjective. I could think, oh, these neighbors are super friendly. Or I'm also asking a seller that. The seller could say, oh, they're super friendly, but it turns out that you don't like them. But the biggest thing is this could be a fair housing violation for the agents or for the sellers. If you say anything like mentioning their race or their religion, you could get your agent or your seller in trouble. So please just don't ask about the neighbors, what the neighbors are like, because again, it's subjective. But the real reason is because that could get you into some legal trouble with HUD and fair housing rules. Okay, so buyers, don't put in a lowball offer for a property that's only been listed for a couple of days. So I actually recommend not putting a lowball offer ever on a property unless two things have happened. One is that your agent looks at comps and says this property is way overpriced, and that's a too high a price, so then you could give a fair market offer. And the other thing is if it's been on the market for a long time. Maybe other things is if the property is distressed and you realize there's going to be a lot of work involved, or the seller is saying they're not going to repair anything. But don't, on the first day that the house goes on the MLS, ask your agent to put in a lowball offer. And when I say lowball, usually anything 10% or more under asking price is lowball. In the market that I work, typically homes are selling within 3% of asking price. Now, of course, if it's way over what it's valued, that will be different, but don't say the first day it's on the market that, oh, I love this house and I want you to write an offer for $150,000 less than what they're asking. You're probably not going to get the offer, and what might happen is then if you decide to give a realistic offer later on, the agent or the sellers are ticked off at you and they're not going to even consider your reasonable offer. Okay, this next one, I don't know why people do this, but don't bring your dog or your pet to the showing and expect to be able to bring your dog into somebody's house. Now, I am a dog lover. I have 3 dogs myself. I love to meet people's dogs and pet them, but if you're bringing your dog to the showing, just understand it's going to either have to stay in the car or stay outside, and you can take turns going into the house. Now, I did once have a family bring their dog, and they had a Tesla, and it was kind of interesting because they said Tesla had pet mode, and it regulated the inside temperature of the car so that they could leave the pets in the car and they wouldn't get overheated. Now, of course, I work in Arizona and you don't want to leave the pet in the car in the summertime because it's very, very hot, but I thought this was interesting. Or maybe you could leave your car running with the air conditioning on. Of course, once I had a problem with my own dog, I left the car running and it got excited and jumped on the console and it locked itself in the car and I had to bust out a window. But please don't bring your dog to a showing and expect you're going to bring it into somebody's house, because that's just not good. So please don't bring your dog to the showing unless you're prepared to have someone stand outside with it or to leave it in the air-conditioned car. Okay, this next one is don't ask to have your personal items delivered to the house before you close. I know this might not seems harmless, that maybe I'll just put a few things in the garage, but what could happen, this actually happened recently to a buyer where we moved some mattresses into the house, and then like 2 days before closing, the financing fell through, and then we had to get the items moved back out of the house into storage. That was just kind of a big pain. We were able to do it. It was inconvenient, but what the risk is maybe now the seller is mad and they're not going to grant you permission to go in and get your stuff if you fall out of escrow the last minute. So there's just risks. Or what if your stuff gets damaged? Or what if you damage something while you're moving it into the house? Too much liability problem moving your things into the house before closing. So don't think about doing that. It's just not a good idea. Okay, the next thing, as a buyer, don't ask your agent to give you the keys right after you've signed the final documents, because we can't give you the key until we have recorded on the sale. So a lot of times, even if you are signing the same day, you're not going to record until later in the day, because escrow title has to do a few things, and then they have to submit it to the county recorder office, and then it has to record, and then we can release the key. So if you go and sign at 10 a.m., don't think I'm going to give you the key at 10:30. It's probably going to be a few hours later. So this leaves me to the next thing is, if you are closing, I recommend you do not sign the paperwork on closing day, because things could happen that would delay you to closing until the next day. So if you can do it at least the day before closing, sometimes a couple of days before closing, to sign all the documents, you're going to be much better off. Oh, and one more thing, don't hire your movers to start moving you in on closing day, because again, many things could go wrong, could delay closing. You might not get the key until 3:30 in the afternoon, and now you've got the movers that you're probably paying by the hour sitting around waiting until they can move your stuff into the house. So just be a little bit cautious on when you're scheduling the movers. Maybe make it the day after closing, but just not a good idea to have movers scheduled there with their moving truck, and your closing might not be until late in the afternoon when you get the key, and you've just wasted a lot of people's time and money. So just wait until the next day your mover's moving your stuff in. And one more thing is, this is just a new thing, buyers now, before the transaction happens, a lot of you might be afraid to hire a buyer's agent because of this NAR lawsuit saying that sellers don't have to pay the buyer agent commission, and maybe you're scared that you might have to pay the commission. I would not let that keep you from hiring a buyer's agent, because a lot of times the buyer's agent, even now, are going to be able to negotiate to have the seller pay their commission, and they might be able to find other ways around it. If you try to represent yourself, you may end up paying thousands more for the house or not getting the right house for you. So I still recommend you hiring a buyer's agent. And of course, I'm a buyer's agent, so you're going to say I'm biased. I'll admit that I am biased, but really looking out for you, a buyer's agent is going to be able to represent you, show you the best houses, and probably negotiate their own commission, so I wouldn't let that scare you. Okay, next we're going to move on to the seller side. Sellers, the first thing I'm going to say is please don't be at the house during the showings. There have been several times that the seller has insisted on being there. Now, there's the exception if you are elderly and maybe disabled, you can't leave. Most people will understand that. But if you're standing around hovering, watching the buyer, thinking you're going to answer any questions, you're probably going to make them uncomfortable. They're not going to want to stay in the house as long as they might have as if you weren't there. And another thing is, I've had sellers actually blow the sale because they say something that they think is innocent during the showing, and actually you've scared the buyers away. So if you could just go out for a couple of hours, maybe take a walk, just try not to be there during the showing. There was a time once I was looking at a home myself, and I was the buyer's agent representing myself, and the listing agent was there, and the seller insisted on being there to answer questions, and she said a couple of things that immediately turned me off that I might not have thought of, because there was a condo complex on the other side of the fence, and she had mentioned that one time there was somebody in the condo that was mentally ill and was screaming late in the night, and don't worry, they have moved out. But that immediately had me looking over the fence like, do I want a single family house with the densely populated condo behind me? And that scared me from doing the sale. So you might think you're innocent and trying to help out, but if you could avoid being at the showing, sellers, I definitely recommend you not be there. Okay, now the next thing, very important. I don't even know why I would have to say that, but sellers, please leave the utilities on during the entire escrow process. For one, they need to be on during the home inspection. So if you show up and the utilities are off, you're going to have to reschedule the home inspection, and likely your buyer is going to have to pay the home inspector another fee to show up a second day, and they're going to be ticked off now because you cost them money. Another thing is if they need to be till the end, till the close of escrow, because a couple of times I've gone in, we've had the inspection, but we're doing the final buyer walkthrough now. The buyer needs to know that the air conditioning is still working, that the lights still function. Please leave the utilities on to the end of the escrow process before you turn them off, because you could actually delay closing or have the buyer walk out of the deal because they're saying, oh, no air conditioning now, I'm not going to buy your house. So please leave the utilities on until the deal closes. And the final thing that's very important is leave your homeowner's insurance on. Do not cancel the homeowner's insurance, especially don't call the homeowner's insurance and say, I'm closing on June 8th, cancel it that day, because what happens if closing is delayed? And I'm going to give you an example. Once I had a cabin that I was a listing agent for in the forest area near Flagstaff, and the closing was supposed to be on a Friday. The seller canceled the homeowner's insurance on that Friday, but closing was delayed till the following week, and the insurance company would not reinstate the policy because the forest was on fire. So imagine you've got a house in the path of a forest fire, closing has been delayed, and over the weekend when you're uninsured, your cabin burns down. Well, now the buyer's not buying your house, and now your sale is reduced to a pile of ash and you're getting nothing. So don't cancel the homeowner's insurance. What you should do is call the homeowner's insurance and say, I'm selling the house. It's probably going to close on the 8th, but don't cancel the policy until I call and tell you that. So that is very important. Don't cancel your homeowner's insurance policy. Okay, so another thing, sellers, please make sure that you leave the mailbox key, the pool key, the garage door openers, any of those things for the buyers when you're leaving the house. Now, what sense does it make for you to take the mailbox key or the pool key? Do you think you're going to go back and swim in that pool later on? Recently, I've had this, but I've had this happen many times. And during the last week of the sale, I'm calling the listing agents. Do you have got the pool key? Do you got the garage door opener for me? Do you have the mailbox key? And they'll be like, I'll check, and then the sellers are like, I gave that to you already. Please give me a break. If you have it rented and the tenant might take that key, that may have happened in one of my recent transactions because those were all gone. Pool key, garage door opener, maybe the tenant took it. So put something in place that if the tenant does not leave the garage door opener, pool key, mailbox key, that they get some kind of a fine. Because even if it's no problem to you, do you really want to do this to your buyer? So now the buyer's moved into their new house. Where's the mailbox key? Well, it's not there because you said you gave it to the seller's agent, which you probably didn't. And so now the seller, I had to do this in my last condo purchase. I had to go to the post office. I had to wait in line. I had to fill out a form. I had to pay them $50 and then wait for them to send me a mailbox key. Same thing with the pool key. I had to go to the HOA. I had to prove that I'd purchased the house, even though they know I purchased a house, right? They get all the paperwork. You'd think it would be covered in the exorbitant transfer fee for the HOA or their monthly ridiculous fee, but no, they charged me $85 to get a new pool key. And then also with garage door openers, oh my gosh, why would you take the garage door opener? So again, as an agent, I can help you get a replacement garage door opener, but I'm not going to be able to program it. I recently tried to do that, and I'm looking on YouTube how to program your garage door opener. They had me looking for some code. I'm supposed to get on a ladder. I am 60 years old. Should I be getting on a ladder to look up some garage code to program the garage door opener that you should have left with the house? Or what if I have a buyer who's like a single mom? I did have a single mom. And they did not leave the garage door opener. Was she supposed to get on a ladder with 3-year-olds walking around on the floor that could knock her over? Just please don't do that. I mean, it may be nothing on your part, but why would you want to make an annoying experience for your buyer on this home transaction? Please don't do that. Karma's going to get you later. So just make sure the pool key, the garage door opener, the mailbox key, make sure those are all left on the property. And if you have a tenant, make sure you ask them to leave it and tell them if they don't, they're going to have to pay you some kind of $200-300 security deposit, because that's about what it's going to cost you as a buyer to get all those things replaced. So my final thing for sellers is, please don't think because of this NAR lawsuit that you're no longer going to pay the buyer agent commission. I know legally you don't have to do that. Legally you've never had to do that. But really, would you want to reduce your buyer pool by 75%? You could end up losing on the purchase price of your home. So really don't be, what do they call it, penny wise, pound foolish, or whatever. Don't do that. Make sure that your seller's agent knows that if a buyer comes and they have asked for them to pay for your buyer agent commission, please agree to do that, because it's going to make the sale much easier than if you have a unrepresented buyer. So that's it. That's my do's and don'ts of a real estate transaction. My name is Dawn Dickinson, the channel Living in Northern Arizona. I post videos every single week about living in the Northern Arizona towns. I am a real estate agent, so if you have a question about buying or selling real estate in the state of Arizona, please give me a call, text, email, and I will get back to you. If you like the video, please do me a favor and give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. I post videos every single week, so I hope to see you here back on the channel next week.